Aloha! Sorry for the interruption of the fifth series of our podcast. Welcome to Legends, a limited number of episodes featuring iconic surfers, shaper of our surf history. We hope you're going to enjoy them. I have to say, it was a true honor for me to interview them. Aloha again. Welcome to the second episode of our Legends series. Today with us from New York City, surfing pioneer and surfboard shaper Mickey Munoz. We discuss with him about surfing, surf history, and much more. Hello, Mr. Munoz. Welcome to the show. Where are you today?
Oh, thank you very much. We're on the East Cape of Baja California, Mexico.
Fantastic. It's a great morning. You told me before, so it's a good time to be there, I guess, right? It's warm.
It's a beautiful morning. I was up early and I did about a mile on the beach before the sun rose.
Nice. Keeping yourself fit, right? A mile.
I am. The surf's small right now, and it's been very windy. So my physicality is to run every morning, and I take our dogs and we run on the beach, and it's beautiful. And I take photographs. I have my camera and I can shoot it one-handed. And so I shoot photos every morning and watch the sun come up.
That's great. Fantastic. Today we're going to talk about many things. So of course, a long career and a lot of great things. But the first question that I have for you is, in your opinion, what is the most important thing in surfing?
Is to have fun.
Very simple, right?
Very simple. You know, the ones that come in with the biggest smile are the winners.
Exactly.
They've done it.
And you try always to have fun, right? In all your career, that I guess was a rule for you, right?
Well, that was the idea. Was for pure enjoyment, pure fun. But what comes along with that is all the stuff that surfing's about, and that's why it's so fulfilling. And
definitely.
And never lost the passion for it. So I'm lucky. I'm a lucky pup.
It's something, it's very difficult to lose a passion for surfing. I guess once you are started and once you're in, you're hooked, right?
Exactly.
For life.
Exactly.
Definitely. I am a curious person, and I would like to know, what was your first proper surfboard? Like, I'm sure you maybe you learn on some boards, but the first one that was like yours, and when was it?
So luckily, my mother got me into swimming very early, and I learned to swim, and then in my first or in grammar school, I met my first friend, who is turned out to be a lifelong friend and great surfer, Ricky Grigg.
Mm-hmm.
And his sister was older than Ricky and had started surfing before Ricky. And Ricky got interested in it. And because we were both swimmers and in competition swimming, we hung out together and we started body surfing. And then, body surfing, you want to go faster, you want to catch more waves. So we started using belly boards. We started using air mats and filled them up with air and rode in. And then, of course, the next step was surfboards, surfing, stand-up. So my mother loaned me the money early on, and I bought a board called Surf King Jr., which was a lifeguard rescue board, a hollow paddle board made out of plywood.
No,
and it
wow.
weighed as much as I did, and I had to drag it down the beach and then usually get help to bring it out of the water or end for end it. And in the winter of 1950, my mother loaned me money again, and I bought a Joe Quigg board.
Wow.
Joe Quigg was one of the few shapers on the California, in all of California, and surfed Malibu, and he had just made a board for his wife, and he made it out of the lightest balsa wood, and it was a smaller board since I'm kind of small, so it fit me perfectly, and that was my first real surfboard.
And you were able
And
to
it was,
keep it with you, or what happened to that board?
yeah, I would. I'm a trash man. I don't throw anything away, and unfortunately, I don't know what happened to that board, but I do remember some of the dimensions. It was 8 feet 10 inches long, 24 inches wide, and probably under 3 inches thick, and probably weighed about 18 pounds, maybe 20 pounds, which was pretty light for a balsa board in those days.
Fantastic.
And yeah, and Joe was, I would say, a contemporary shaper of the day. He was one of the most up to date and advanced designs of shapers in those days. There were only half a dozen in all of California, and I don't think anyone on the East Coast, and there were some in Hawaii at the time. But Joe was early on one of the very, very best.
And then, fast forwarding, you were one of the first to surf Waimea, correct?
Yes, in the modern day, yes.
What was your favorite? What is your favorite memory of those times?
Uh, we were living on the North Shore. It was my first trip to Hawaii was in 1954, and it was in the summer. And then um, I went back in 1957, and we were living on the North Shore in Haleiwa. And we had talked about, we had one car between 8 of us. In fact, I shared a room with another guy, and our rent was $16 a month. It was split 2 ways, so $8 a month, and we were all, surfing every wave we could, all day, every day. And we had always talked about Waimea in kind of hushed tones because, as far as we knew, nobody had ridden it in modern times. There is a story about some years before, one of the very best surfers of the day. He and another guy were out at Sunset Beach, and the surf came up, and when it comes up over there, it comes up exponentially. Like every set gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And Sunset started closing out, and they decided they would paddle to Waimea because that was the last place to kind of close out on the North Shore. And they paddled to Waimea, and one guy paddled out, and the other guy, the really good surfer, decided he could make it, paddled around the point, and disappeared, never was found again. Yeah, so, there was legend about Waimea, and, Sunset was just starting to close out, and we decided to go look at Waimea, and, okay, let's do it. And we all paddled out and started riding waves. And then probably my favorite part of that whole first day was after the majority of people surfed and got out of the water. We were in the water 3 or 4 hours, and I think I only made 1 or 2 or 3 waves in that time where I actually successfully made the wave and, pulled out, and no leashes then. So you lost your board. It was half an hour to 45 minutes before you get it back again and get back out in the lineup. But later on that day, it was kind of a rainy, stormy day, and the surf kept coming up, and Greg Knoll was filming on the point, and actually one of Greg's best friends, Mike Stang, and myself paddled back out. And Mike was about my size, and we were both, a little crazy and crazed because of the adrenaline and all of that. And we're out there, and Mike had taken some drama classes, and so he started quoting Shakespeare, and one quote, I think from Macbeth, I took the circumcised dog by the neck and I smote him to death like this, and he fell off his board. He's got hair down to his shoulders and a full beard, and I look about the same, and I'm screaming at him, and this giant set came along, and we both paddled out for it and took off in this thing. It was, big wave, and of course, neither one of us made it. But I think that part of the day, the drama and the adrenaline, and it was pretty special. And I don't think I really appreciated what we had done until years later. I realized it was kind of a milestone, in our surfing careers, and appreciated by big wave riders even today, I think.
Yeah, definitely. In a certain way, he's still riding that wave, right?
Yeah, and of course, they're riding bigger and bolder waves, but still, Waimea still gets respect.
Of course. And what was the best wave of your life? If you had to choose one, which one would that be?
That's kind of a tough call, but another story which you probably maybe have heard. But I worked for Hobie for years, Hobie Surfboards, and Hobie would send me back to the East Coast, and I'd rent a car in Miami and drive to Maine and kind of service the dealers along the way and surf with them and get to know them and so forth. So I became friends with one of our dealers, and he took me surfing one day on a funky, blown out, knee-high wave day, just the two of us in the water, and we're laughing and riding some waves, and I look in and I don't see him, and I'm wondering where he is. Then I see his board upside down, and I look again and I see him in the water, and he's face down in the water, and I quickly paddle and surf my way in, and I get to him and I pull him out on my board, and he's fully conscious, drowning in 3 feet of water, broken neck, paralyzed from the neck down. So, a big guy, over 200 pounds. I can't deal with him. There's a guy on the beach. I call him out. We have him on my board. We carry him in, and he goes to the hospital, and he's paralyzed. He's a quadriplegic, paralyzed from the neck down. Wow. We retain our friendship over the years, and about 25 years to that date, he's in California with his wife and visiting friends and all of us, and I had prearranged with him. I said, Bill, you're going to have to come out on my boat, and he goes, great. And there's a round of parties and everything. And when the day comes that he's supposed to come with us, oh, I'm too tired. How are you going to do this? I go, don't worry. We'll get you on the boat. We'll take care of you. His wife had only been on a boat one other time in her life. Bill had been a pretty good waterman, a diver, surfer, etc. And we get him down to the harbor, wheel him in his wheelchair, and I set a ramp up on this catamaran that I had built. And we rolled him up onto the catamaran, onto the deck of the boat, and strapped him in. And off we went to down the coast from our area in Dana Point. And the first place we get to is Cotton's Point, pretty good swell. And he's watching surfers and, he's hooting and all excited. And of course, he hasn't surfed a day since the day he and I were surfing together, right, on the East Coast. And then the next stop was Lower Trestles and Upper Trestles. And then we're going down to Lower Trestles, and a set's coming along, and I had already pre-told my wife Peggy and another friend that was with us what I was going to do. And you got a picture of Bill strapped in his wheelchair with a little fairing. He's basically out in the open except for this fairing that is protecting him a little bit. Good sized set. I turn around, take off in this wave, and we've got surfers in front of us and surfers behind us, and everybody's hooting. And Bill hadn't been in a wave since he and I surfed together. And now we're riding this wave together. And his wife had never been in a wave ever. And we ride this wave and pull out. And for everybody on the boat, except for Bill, if we screw up, the boat crashes, turns over, something happens, we walk away or swim away.
Yeah.
Bill doesn't. He's strapped in. Anyway, we pull out of this thing, and as soon as we get out of it and we're in the safe zone, both of us are in tears, laughing and in tears, and hugging each other. And I would say that's one of the best waves I've ever been in.
Oh, definitely. Thanks a lot for sharing. It's such a powerful story. And it's fun to picture, him strapped on the wheelchair and surfing that wave. I guess was a great memory as well.
Well, and while we're on that, just as a follow-up, he was so excited about it, and his wife was so excited. They ended up taking scuba lessons. And Bill had done that before, but she had never done that, right? She wasn't a water person. And so they take scuba lessons. And for Bill, being, 200 pounds, quadriplegic, being underwater is like being in space. He's now weightless underwater, right?
Yeah.
Next Christmas, they send a Christmas card to us, and they're both underwater, and they both got their mouthpieces out, and they're kissing underwater.
Wow.
And that was their
nice.
So anyway,
very romantic. But it's also a great story of perseverance, right? So it's even if the life is tough, and you can still try to do something, and so it's very important. So in your life, you met a lot of surfers, and was there a meeting with one of them that was particularly meaningful for you?
That's a tough question.
I'm sure you met some very famous surfer, but also some surfer that nobody knew. But was there one that like that meeting with him or her was left a mark on you, a positive one?
So another story here.
I like.
I get a call from a friend that I knew years before, and she said, "I'm working with cystic fibrosis people," and she said, "I don't want to sell you on it." You know, this is after we talked a little bit. She said, I'm working with these people that have cystic fibrosis. Do you know anything about it?" And I go, "No, not really." She said, "Okay, I don't want to sell you on this, but you go online, watch this video." So I go online and I watch this 17 or 18-year-old girl, very attractive, who has cystic fibrosis, and she said, "I am a surfer. And the reason I surf and why is because surfing has prolonged my life. And in that time, the average age, cystic fibrosis, people that had it were born with it, and their average age would be 17 or 18 years old before they die. Well, an Australian doctor had cystic fibrosis patients, kids that had it. The ones that surfed did way better than the ones that didn't, and not for the obvious reasons. Cystic fibrosis is a problem with the lungs. You can't expel the bacteria out of your lungs, and consequently, they become an incubator for everything. And this doctor discovered that because surfers were breathing atomized salt air, they were able to clear their lungs better, and he developed a therapy that prolonged their life for another 7 or 8 or 10 years, which is a big deal, almost doubled their lives.
Yeah.
So I called my friend back and I said, "Sold, I'll do anything, but I want to be able to surf with this girl at some point." She said, "No problem." So the first time I get to surf with this girl, we're paddling out, and she's wheezing and taking a half an hour just to get out through the waves. And then she's sitting out there and she's got this smile on her face, and she is like radiating so much energy and so much positive life. And riding one wave, it was like a life changer for me. And anyway, we became good friends and good friends with my wife, Peggy, and we've kind of been working, helping as best we can, raising money for research and so,
Yeah, very important. Very important.
I know a lot of the very famous contemporary surfers now and stuff, but yeah,
That was
Emily.
That was very meaningful.
Yeah, Emily was fantastic.
Yeah,
She's gone now. She lasted till about 25, and after a double lung transplant and everything. Yeah.
it's a sad story, but at the end, whatever we can do to help people and to even just to bring that smile for a surf session, it's
Oh my God.
it's so important.
Yeah,
it's
for
worth
sure.
it's worth
And especially in these days now with COVID and the problems and in the world, to have that energy and that you know,
It's
yeah.
it's definitely important. So since you are telling me a lot of great stories, there is one story that I mean, it's very interesting. Does not to do anything with surf, but with sailing. So we talked about catamaran before. Is that day that you got lost at sea with Joker Bell, right?
Wait, lost at sea by, yeah, on Joey's boat, the
Yeah,
Bell.
was an adventure, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was a real adventure. Yeah, I had flown to Tahiti to meet Joey there, and Joey had one other friend that he was sailing with there that was going to sail from Tahiti back to Hawaii, and we were going to travel through the Tuamotu Islands and the Marquesas on the way back, just three of us, and I had never met this other friend of Joey's, and he was a big boat sailor, high level sailor racer, not a surfer. Joey and I were, of course, surfers, and that was our. And anyway, uh, after a bunch of adventures that I won't bore you with now, unless you
No,
want me to, but
I
but
love.
what you were talking about is one of the things that we were doing. Joey has two speeds. Either he's asleep or he's wide open. Right?
Mhm.
He's at full throttle all the time, and and uh, and so we've got big spinnaker up on his catamaran. It's a fast boat. We're out in we're 1,000 miles from the Marquesas. We're out in one of the least traveled stretches of oceans in the world. And we had devised a little game where, after we kind of slowed down, first 2 days we were hauling ass. The wind was blowing hard, and we were going fast. And the third day, it was a beautiful day and more moderate. We're still moving right along, but not at 20 knots. We're at 10 knots, right? So he had kind of rope ladders going up to the forestay in between the hulls. And, you're about 15 feet off the water when you get up to the peak of these. And you would dive off there into the water and let the boat go over you. And then we had a line stretched between the hulls on the aft end.
Okay.
And you would come up from underwater and you'd grab that line and then twist around and body surf behind the boat and then pull yourself
Nice.
aboard again. And anyway, and we're out there, we're nude, no reason to have clothes on, right? And I dive off the front of the boat, up there, and I come up a little too soon, and he had an outboard motor with a fairing in front of it that was kind of low in the water, or down close to the water, and that's aimed right at my head. And I went, uh-oh, and I duck under, and as it goes by me, and then I reach up to grab the line behind, and just at that moment, they got a gust of wind. The boat went a little bow down, and the sterns went up, and that line just went off my fingertips, and I am now out. The boat's sailing away, and I'm out, 1,000 miles from Marquesas, and 1,500 miles or more from Hawaii, and treading water naked out, watching the boat sail away. And luckily, we had this what they called a fish with a little propeller on it, and that was what gave us the speed. We didn't have a GPS or anything then. We were navigating with a sextant, and we had this fish that was telling us approximately how fast we were going or how many miles we had gone. And I knew that fish was coming up. I could feel a line running by me, but it was a little tiny, less than a quarter inch, an eighth inch line, and I reached and I grabbed it and I just went, I hope this doesn't break. And it didn't. And so now I'm body surfing behind the boat. And I finally got the boat stopped enough so they could get me aboard. And, I got aboard and everything was fine, right? And then, the real adventure started at 3 a.m. That was kind of midday. And then about 3 in the morning, that morning I'm on the helm and a squall comes up and I duck into the cabin to get foul weather gear on. And I couldn't have been off the helm for 10 seconds, 15 seconds at the most. I get back, there was a wind shift, and I miscalculated the wind shift and turned the boat and stopped the boat in the wrong direction. I was overcorrecting, and consequently the spinnaker blew back into the mast, and I'm standing on the helm, and I yelled for Joey and Louie to help. I needed help. And they came up. Joey's hanging onto a shroud, one of the supports for the mast, on the side of the boat, and Louis standing next to me. And I hear this bang. And I looked up because it sounded like maybe the mast broke. And then I looked up. It looked to me like it was intact. And I thought, well, maybe it was a halyard that broke. And no, it wasn't. It was the mast. And I'm looking back down again, and I don't see it, but the top 2/3 of the mast came down and caught me right on the shoulder, between my neck and shoulder, and drove me to the deck. And I was paralyzed from the neck down for, probably half an hour or so.
But you were so lucky because it hit your hand, right?
Oh no, I would have been dead had it been that much, closer to my head or broken my neck. And the first thought after, Joey and Louie are next to me and they're going, "Are you okay?" And I go, "I don't know, where are we?" I didn't even know where we were. And they told me what was happening. And I said, "Well, leave me alone. My neck's broken. I'm paralyzed. You don't touch me." And they left me there, and they had to deal with stuff. And by the time they got back, my fingers were starting to come back to life in my toes. And of course, when I'm paralyzed, I'm thinking of my friend Bill Wise, who is the one I took surfing on the catamaran, quadriplegic. And, we're out in the middle of the ocean, and we had a shortwave radio, and the sending unit was out on that. And the only other one we had was a VHF, which is line of sight. You might get 25 miles or 50 miles on a good day, communication. We had no other way of communicating. So, or we had this EPIRB, which if you set the EPIRB off, if an aircraft is flying or there's a ship nearby, they can pick up the signal and figure out where you are. But we're out in the boonies, no one around. So it was adventure.
Luckily your head was safe. Luckily you were able to get back into sailing, and you finally arrived to Hawaii, to Tahiti. Sorry, right?
No, we arrived in Hawaii.
Hawaii, yes.
Yeah, and by the I don't know whether Joey told you this part, but the trip went from wide open to, you know, we went the first 3 days we went almost 1,000 miles or so, right? And the next week we went 105 miles. So, you know, it slowed down considerably. And we had time to play music and sing and
Nice.
talk story, and it changed the whole trip. And when we finally spotted the big island, Joey and I both turned our backs to it, and we went, "Oh my God, we're here already!"
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, we would have just sailed on.
From from a negative experience, you can have like a positive end, and of course now a beautiful memory. And
Totally.
yeah, of body surfing naked in the middle of the ocean. So we talk about surfing, we talk about sailing. Let's talk a little bit about shaping, right? So how is the experience of shaping board for you?
So back to my first real surfboard, made by Joe Quigg. Well, Joe was a Malibu surfer, and one of the things that Joe used to do would be to bring balsa blanks to the beach, set up his sawhorses on the beach, and in between surf sessions, shape balsa boards. And you know, it was all hand tools. So he'd start with what's called an adze, which would be like an axe, only the head of the axe is turned sideways, and you swing it and kind of plow pieces of big, thick pieces off the balsa blanks. And then the next tool would be a draw knife, which was a two-handled knife, basically, that you literally draw towards you, and you can pull shavings off the balsa blank. Well, it's a lot of drag on the blank. And so I've always said my first job in the surfboard manufacturing or building business was being a paperweight, and that's sitting on the blank to keep it from moving on the horses while Joe would be draw knifing big shavings off the blank, shaping the board. And then he would use Japanese pull planes and block planes to fine tune it and contour it and shape it. And I became so enamored by the process that I couldn't wait to shape my own board. And I got into shaping kind of that way, and learning from the master, the maestro, and you know, I shaped a few without, you know, real experience, and finally got into production shaping, where it was a whole different level of shaping, and you know, kind of from the late 60s all through the 70s into the 80s, I was pretty much production shaping. So I got to bridge from, you know, the 100-pound board era, you know, through balsa wood into the early stages of foam, and then of course, you know, production foam making, where the blanks got closer and closer and closer to the finished product, because, you know, bottom line is, you know, the business got accelerated. More and more people wanted boards. You needed to make more boards quicker and better. And so I got to bridge that whole gap and got in from longboards into shortboards, and then being small, it was easy for me to be into shortboarding and shortboards. And I loved the I love the acceleration. I love the planing. I love the carving. And so I was lucky enough to be kind of among the forefront of that design era. And where we were not afraid to try different ideas and different designs. And, if you looked at the pendulum going out to, we'd take it out to one way out radically in one direction and then back into the other one and finally come back into the middle where it worked, pretty much for everything. So
if I put your name in and I Google your name, the first thing that comes up is that surfing legend Mickey Munoz. So do you consider yourself a legend?
I don't know what that is exactly, but I have the people that I grew up, as my gurus, as my the people that I respected and all of that. And I don't know, I'm just happy to be able to still be doing it and surfing and kind of trying to stay up with it. I watch WSL, I watch every event, stream it,
Nice.
and I've been I kind of got into surfing and competition by judging. And then I was never, I don't ever consider myself that great a surfer, but I understood the game pretty well. And so I was able to play the game better than some of the better surfers. And so I could do okay. And then finally it got to the point, do I need to enter a competition? It was expensive and get a T-shirt out of it or judge. And it turns out I ended up going back to judging because at least I got paid to judge and I got a T-shirt free. So I've been the constant judge, and judging is really difficult at best. It is really tough. So yeah. Anyway, it's a long story about kind of keeping up with what's going on in surfing, but yeah, I still fantasize about. I've tried foiling, and I, may someday do that and go to better foils and for people that are, anyway. So
it never stops, right? It's always like a discovery. Yeah. As long as we all have fun, that's the most important thing, as we said at the really beginning. And so we're going to finish our interview with a session of question and answer. So quick questions that I ask everybody on the show. Please answer the first thing that comes up to your mind, okay? The best surfboard that you ever ridden?
I made a twin fin balsa board that I rode thousands and thousands of waves on, and it was probably pretty advanced for its day, and I think that might have been one of the best. I don't know. They're all good.
Definitely.
They're all fun, and anyway, that one comes to mind.
And you still have that board, or also that board?
I do. I still have that board, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was 6'4" and 19 and a half wide and 2.5 inches thick, and I made it out of, they would pack the balsa in balsa wood. They would cut thin pieces and surround the bundles of balsa wood with these thin pieces of balsa wood. So when they put the straps around, it wouldn't hurt the inner cores pieces. And I would save those outer pieces until I finally had enough to make a board. And I glued all those together. And I think this board had 21 laminations in it.
Wow.
And yeah, so anyway, that was my twin fin that yeah.
Your favorite shaper of all time?
Me? No, no, no.
Yes. And right after you,
No,
that was a good answer.
there's a lot of fabulous shapers, incredible shapers, but I'll go back to my friend who's gone now, Joe Quigg,
Hmm.
as I think I learned more from him about design concept, how to go about design. And Joe was an artist, and I just loved his approach and how he approached a design. So yeah,
Definitely. Yeah, I kind of was expecting also this answer. Like of course you learn from
yeah.
it, so it must be.
But the other, I love Dale Velsey because Velsey had a great sense of aesthetics, didn't care about symmetry so much, and he was a salesman. So anyway, and then of course, there are a zillion contemporary shapers that are excellent, and some of the best boards I've ridden have been other shapers' boards, and I love going to other shapers and going, hey, you're the artist. I want to experience your art. So yeah.
Nice.
Okay. Enough of that. That's not
It's good, you're getting free boards and opportunities to buy from the best shaper in the world. So definitely.
Exactly.
Personal question: your favorite song?
No, yeah. No, this is pretty funny. No, our dog that barks at buzzards, he's also really good at singing "Happy Birthday." So we when people's birthdays come up, we sing "Happy Birthday," and he sings along, howling and barking.
Definitely, it's like a rock star dog.
That's one of the most fun ones lately.
Nice, interesting answer. Definitely one of a kind. What is your favorite surf spot?
Oh, I can't tell you that. I don't know. It all depends on the day and the place and all of that. Of course, I grew up at Malibu, and Malibu is one of my favorite waves for sure.
Definitely.
I mean, Rincon's a great wave, and I got to ride J Bay, and I've gotten to ride some really, really high quality waves, and each place has its magic moments, and so yeah.
Okay. Favorite surf of all time?
That's a really tough question. I've been watching. I going back to the judging part, and the fact I stream all of WSL. I stream about all the contests and competition and highlight days and all of that. And there's so many incredible surfers in the world now. I'm just stunned. I mean, what I do is not surfing anymore. So I know that doesn't answer your question really.
No, but like the surfing progression is like is huge, right? So it's difficult. But let's put it this way: if we go back to the legends of surfing, which one would you choose? One of your old friends.
Well, okay, I'll start off with one. How about Jerry Lopez? So I get to surf with Jerry quite a bit, and actually in the Hobie era, I got to shape a lot of lightning bolts and got to work with Jerry shaping, and out of and Jerry is still shaping, and he's still putting huge amount of time in the water, and he's learned to become a great kiter. He's a foiler, stand-up foiler. He's a prone paddle foiler. He and we snowboarded together and surfed together, and I surf with him, quite a bit. So
Great answer.
I gotta say, I gotta put him right up there.
And the last question.
And he's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy too. The last question is a little bit unusual. Has nothing to do with surf or sailing or shaping. And I ask everybody on the show. So I would like to know your best relationship advice.
You kind of get back what you put into it. So you put out love, you get love back.
Yeah. Very pragmatic, right?
Think so.
Has to be like that. More you give, more you get. It's part of our, let's say, being, right? So we don't know.
It's and I think we males are pretty dumb. We're back in the caveman days, beating ourselves or beating women over the head with clubs or baseball bats. They're beating our own heads, and it's kind of a duh thing for us. Like it's something you keep learning.
Yeah, we never stop. We never stop. Thank you, Mr. Munoz, for being on the show with me today. And I look forward to talk to you very, very soon.
You're welcome.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
You too. You're ready to go to bed.
Yeah. I'm going straight away. Thank you.
Have a good one.
To you. Bye-bye. Hi, it's me again. I hope you enjoyed our today's episode. If you want to know more about us, please follow www.thetempleofsurf.com and all our social media. Mahalo!